In this short instructional video, we will be looking at the key principles of sound belay construction and providing you with a few tips and tricks to take away with you to use when assessing your own belay setups. The first thing to do when constructing a belay is to select sound anchors. In this example, we have a thread anchor, which I have put a sling around. It's important to select enough anchors to make a safe belay. In most situations, I would suggest a minimum of 2 anchors should be used. This is to provide a backup and stability to your system. There are 3 types of anchors: threads, spikes, or placed gear. Obviously, whatever type you select, they must be solid. Once you've selected your anchors, they can then be linked by a sling or by a rope, as I'm going to show you later. The angle created by joining your anchors should not exceed 90 degrees, as this overloads each anchor. I use what I call the rule of thumb to check that the angle created is not wider than the gap between my finger and my thumb. After flaking the rope, I'm going to tie a figure of 8 into the end with a stopper knot and clip it into the anchor furthest away from the edge of the climb. Fasten up the gate and check it's closed, and then clip into the second anchor and fasten the gate. I then take the strands from both anchors to the top of the climb. Keeping back from the edge, I take all 4 strands and tension and equalize them, then gather them together and tie a big overhand knot in all of them. I tighten each of the 4 strands coming out of each side of the overhand knot. Again, I use the rule of thumb to check that the angle created is not wider than the gap between my finger and my thumb. Then I take this central loop and fasten it onto my harness with a carabiner. I can then stretch myself to the edge. The rope should be tight behind me and I should just about be able to get a view down the climb, but no further. From the other side, you can see me clipping on, fastening my gate, checking my harness and checking the anchors before I move towards the edge. In this setup, I have to sit down because my anchors are low to the ground. I then need to flake the rope into a pile beside me and then shout below before I throw the end of the rope down to the climber. Pull in the slack and attach the rope to the belay plate. In this situation, the belay plate is attached to the belay loop on my harness. Fasten the gate and check it. So in summary, check that both anchors are equally loaded, independently tied off and solid, and that the angle falls within the rule of thumb. And finally, that the anchors, the belayer and the climber are all in a straight line, and that you can lock back your belay plate fully. Now you're ready to start belaying your climber. So in summary, we need to make sure that the anchors are sound, independent, equally loaded and fall within the rule of thumb for angles. The belayer needs to be tight on the anchors, in line with the climb, in view of the climber and in communication with the climber. The climber must be tied on, tight on the rope at all times and in communication with the belayer. The direction must be straight as an arrow from anchors to belayer to climber. Constructing belays takes experience and judgment. This video is intended to refresh previously learned skills and not replace the need for proper instruction. If you are unsure, please seek further advice.